Hello everybody and welcome to episode 114 of the Agile Pubcast. We're still in lockdown as you can see, but it won't be long before we're gracing a real pub, so hang on to that thought and stick with us in the meantime. Before I tell you about this episode, we're going to have a quick shout out to two of our new patrons, Ryan Ragsdale and Deirdre Lusmore. Cheers to you. We raise you a glass and say thank you for your support. Anybody else that wants to join them, head on over to patreon.com/theagilepubcast. But today's episode was built around a question from one of our patrons, Andreas Whitler. We have an Ask the Landlord feature where some of our patrons can post in questions. And Andreas's was around decision making and the importance of it for team success. So we got chatting, and the first thing that came up was the fact that Paul and I are so different. Between precrastination and procrastination. That led on to unconscious heuristics, or as Paul calls it, good old intuition. And then decision fatigue, when's good time to make decision and when's decision making harder. And how Paul crumbles under pressure on game shows when he's asked to make a decision. Before finally coming all the way around to a conversation about the good old last responsible moment. Anyway, we're glad you decided to listen to this episode. We hope it turns out to be a good decision for you, and we will see you again very, very soon. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
God, I just dropped my drink.
No, don't do that.
Oh dear, that was a shock to the system. I only just knocked a whole bottle of cider all over my desk computer. Nearly the whole thing went up in flames.
Wow, that would have been one for the bloopers.
But there we are.
How are you?
I'm alright. Monday evening. Standard, locked in my office all day long. Carry on into the evening, why not?
The kids back at school today, though, right?
Yeah, one of them is.
Just one.
Yeah, only the primaries went back today.
Oh, do they?
But hoping for another one on Thursday. The other one goes back in on Thursday. So because that's a staggered return for secondary in our school.
Okay.
So got a bit more
Fair
time
enough.
to enjoy. And of course, you'll know, Jeff, it's my birthday on Wednesday. So taking the day off on Wednesday. Looking forward to that. Not going to do any work.
So one of your presents might arrive tomorrow.
Ooh.
Wednesday.
Ooh.
And the other one I haven't sent, so I'll just have to give you the next time we see each other.
Oh, thanks, mate. I need to buy presents, but I'll take them.
I'm
Thank you
bored.
very much. What are you drinking there, sir? What can I get you from behind the bar?
Well, I realise that this is going to be a little bit out of time because of the way we've recorded episodes.
Oh yes, it's going to be.
But I did say that the next time we were on, I would tell you my favourite non-alcoholic beer, which is what I'm drinking. But people will probably, if they listen to these episodes in order, will probably hear this the wrong way round. But hey ho. So I'm drinking something called Beavertown Laser Crush.
Mm.
It's another one of these funky cans that
Oh yeah.
I quite like. And I do quite like a lot of these Beavertown drinks. They do some. I've got about 5 or 6 different styles from them, and this is an alcohol-free one, and it's surprisingly good. I mean, the standard of alcohol-free beers has gone up tremendously in the last 5 years, I would say.
Mm.
This is my favourite, and I don't really do favourites.
You don't, definitely not.
It might be just a fad that I'm going through. I don't know, but it's really nice. It's kind of fruity, but not too fruity.
Mm.
Maybe could do with slightly more bitterness, maybe. But the big thing about it for me is that it doesn't taste diluted.
Mm.
It doesn't taste like beer flavoured squash. It feels like a beer for me. So yeah, I'm quite liking it. Cheers. What are you drinking?
Cheers. So you're going non-alcoholic. I'm going completely the other end of the scale. I've got some. It's not the strongest cider I've drunk, but it's strong enough for a Monday night at 6:20. I mean, you can see that. You can't see that. This is Rattler.
Oh yes.
Do you know about Rattler?
I do like Rattler, yeah.
Do you like it here?
We got it on tap at a pub near me.
This is a Healy cider, Cornish cider from Penhallow in Cornwall. So 6%, but it is marketed as cloudy cider, so I'm expecting it to be a tad rough around the edges. But I'll pour myself a pint now. There we
Sounds
are.
good.
Sound of the pub, innit? We'll be back there soon. But yeah, I'm dangerously gonna drink this on an empty stomach. I haven't had my dinner yet, but you can see it is quite fizzy, very bubbly fizzy, but also a little bit cloudy. But
Cheers, mate.
it is sharp.
We've hit one of the milestones on the roadmap out of lockdown.
We have,
One step closer.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
need it because my working from home situation is not working out at the moment. Today I've had an absolute technology nightmare.
You haven't you? Everything's gone wrong, gone pop.
My lovely kit that I absolutely adore, my iMac, has just stopped working. I'm hoping that I can recover it, but it's been 2 days and still haven't recovered it. And then the Wi-Fi was just dreadful today while I was trying to have some coaching calls. So, and of all the days, the kids aren't here, so they weren't using up the bandwidth for the first time in months. So
yeah, it's funny, isn't it, that when you least expect it to drop out. But what's happened with your iMac? Is it not even turning on now? Is it?
it turns on, but it freezes. I think I'm hoping, pinning my hopes on it's a software issue.
Is it?
Rather than a hardware issue.
Okay.
So I'm currently uninstalling preference files and re-indexing and things, but it's just going to take a long time because something's hanging it up. Anyway, that's very boring. People don't want to hear about my iMac problems. They want to hear about what do they want to hear about?
They want to hear a question, don't they, from one of our listeners?
Well, yeah, we might as well. Yeah, this we do this Ask the Landlord feature, and we've had somebody ask the landlord, haven't we?
We have.
Andy. And
the big A, I like to call him. Should we do his question? So Andreas Wittler is one of our patrons. He's a keen follower, so he's responded to our call for questions. Shall I read it out verbatim? Shall I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Here we go, listeners.
Need a refresher.
Listening to a talk given by Jeff Sutherland, I learned. Let me start again. Re-edit that. Listening to a talk given by Jeff Sutherland, I learned that a decisive factor for the success of any team is the speed at any decision is taken. Having them been taken later than an hour after the need arises reduces the probability of convincing results tremendously, he argued. Do you agree, from your experience, and how to measure decision speed, I wonder, when minutes and hours should be tracked?
Okay. I mean, there's a couple of things in there, isn't there? The first thing that comes to mind is how we're very different.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Procrastinator and the procrastinator.
Absolutely, always have been, always will be.
So I've had this bite me financially this week. It cost me hundreds and hundreds of pounds, my procrastination.
Deciding too early.
Yeah, making a decision before I had to. So I've been experimenting with tools for a new community that I'm running, and experimenting with different products and platforms and things. And so I've gone here, there, and everywhere, basically taking up 2-week free trial options and things to see whether they do what I want. And a couple I thought, yeah, right. I don't want that one. I like those two.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, while I still had time left in my free trial, I bought the annual subscription. I didn't need to. I could still have carried on with my free trial. And then I found a better one. So I didn't need those two anymore.
Yeah.
And so I've wasted those hundreds and hundreds of pounds because I'm not going to, just because I spent that money doesn't mean I'm not going to have the better tool. I'm not that spiteful to myself. Just going to have to pay for another one. But yeah, that's me all over.
But then on the flip side of that, I've been stung and I've lost out by waiting too long to book flights. That's a typical one of being indecisive, waiting. I'll just wait, and then the price goes up. Or tickets. I've been stung a number of tickets for concerts, events that I've wanted to. My mum and dad is a good example. At Christmas, we were trying to book tickets for an event where we could have met them socially distanced, of course, at Christmas, but a little light festival. And I said, "There's 2 tickets left," and I could have just bought them, but I thought, no, I better check with mum and dad. I knew they'd be. I kind of knew back in my mind they'd be around, they'd be available, and they'd want to go. I should have just booked, done the spontaneous thing. But now I'd better check. Better go back and make sure that they're happy with it.
And was the worry
of course, missed out on the tickets?
Was the worry that you might have paid for something and not used it?
Yeah, I think just paid for something then that someone didn't want or didn't see the same value in as I did. I think.
Yeah. And for me, thinking logically, rationally is easy. These things aren't necessarily always logical and rational. Maybe that's the point we need to come back to. For me, the one of the things that helps make it easier to make decisions is the reversibility of that decision.
Yes, very true.
So if you knew, for example, that you could easily sell that ticket or get a refund or whatever, then that would make it easier to do because the risk would be lower. Yeah. Teams. So to go back to Andreas's question, there will be times when teams need to make decisions very, very quickly, possibly more quickly than they're comfortable with. But there are probably also times when actually they need to make decisions a lot slower.
Yeah.
And so having both you and I in the team, a precrastinator and a procrastinator, is probably a good balance to have.
Yeah. This it made me think as well about the need to analyse the decision. So this is something. Brings me back weirdly to Netflix, a Netflix documentary that I know that I've ranted about in the past, which is The Last Dance, and they talk about this idea of team intuition, which is something I've dabbled with, little exercises based on intuition as well. But the idea is that as you can build that intuition, the need to analyse a decision is less so in that kind of team culture where we kind of would be able to second guess what other people would want, even if they're not there. And that can speed up decision making, even if for something that which we feel we might need to deliberate longer. That might allow that team to have that. Your gut feel can, I think, be fine tuned and can to a team environment, to what the team's gut feel might be, based on common retrospective storytelling and similar experiences, other things we've done in the past or simulated have done in the past.
I call intuition unconscious heuristics.
Nice. Sounds clever.
So it's a collection of experiences that you've internalized at an unconscious level.
Yeah.
And together they form rules of thumb.
Yes.
So that's your. I think there is a slight nuance between that and gut instinct, because gut instinct might just be taking a punt, whereas this could be, this is a bit like that, so I'm going to go with that, even if you're not thinking of that through consciously.
Yeah. There's also but to come back to Andreas's question. I do believe that there may be things. The phrase, why don't you go away and sleep on it? That idea of, so you probably need a bit of time to process that. Don't make a rash decision. And I think, so the actual way, that links back to the idea for me of slowing the brain. Your brain needs to probably process this at a slightly slower rate, because there's some more insights and eventualities that you need to explore before you should make any type of decision based on that. I think that's probably true.
It reminds me of that Daniel Kahneman stuff. It's System 1, System 2, yeah?
Yeah.
The sort of instinctive, almost emotional type responses, and then the slower, more calculated sort of analytical type approaches. For the life of me, I can't remember too much about it, the details of it, but I know that it's not that one's better than the other. It's contextual.
Yeah.
And I think you add that extra complication when you're talking about a team rather than an individual.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, the second part of that, I'm not sure I'd ever really get down to measuring it in terms of hours and seconds, but maybe that's me. Maybe that's just the fact that I'm not that scientific.
I think we've measured it in different ways before that I know that we've spoken about as a way of highlighting cost.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of decision making as an impediment, maybe if it's being done outside the team or your product owner is taking too long to decide what to do, that can, as a Scrum Master, that's quite telling data that you can extrapolate and highlight that, you know, we don't have effective empowerment within the team to make the right decision. So seeing it as a negative, but not necessarily as to, I don't know if I gamble on being able to propose that it will increase, or any data I've got around increasing the accuracy of decisions based on time. That's quite challenging for me.
Yeah, I suppose for me, I would always, but this is me rationalising to, I think, the answer that I want, is that actually the amount of time you spent working out how long is the appropriate or the optimum time to spend taking a decision, you'd have been better off making the decision.
Any decision is better than no decision.
Well,
is that true?
No, but in a lot of cases it is, and in many cases it's not necessarily about one decision, right? So, well, if you're going to really simplify this, you can simplify, that's not the right term either, but you can look at the Cynefin framework, right? So making a decision in the simple or the clear domain, you don't need to think about it, you just follow best practice, whatever. You do some analysis in the complicated domain, you run some experiments. That's where I was going with this, is that the decision might not be to pick the right one. It could be, I'm going to decide to actually not decide, but let the data emerge quickly. That's something I think a lot of teams have problems with. So they'll either go down there, well, we need to make a decision. What's the right answer? Find somebody who knows the right answer, or do the analysis to make the decision. Or, instead of, let's run an experiment. Or if they do, and I remember I was chatting about this when we were in Dublin a while ago, not running a particularly good experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
What kind of decisions do teams struggle with, in your opinion?
I think the decisions around should we or should we do this. So in terms of sprint planning commitments, should this go in? Shouldn't this? Should this be? Is this acceptable to start? Is this acceptable to finish? That's the ones that I probably see most often.
Yeah.
It's almost like, are we allowed to? It's questioning, is this okay? Questioning that kind of permission to do things.
So I've seen teams, generally. No, I'm before finishing my sentence, I'm correcting myself. So my instinct was to say, I tend to see teams make decisions too quickly, when actually they need to argue, they need to debate, they need to increase their range of options, they need to try different things. They just want to close out the uncertainty of a pending decision too quickly. That was my instinctive response. But then I think I can think of a lot of examples where teams will actually avoid making a decision. Either they will park the conversation, they will avoid the conversation, they will overcomplicate filibuster, I think they would call it in the States, wouldn't they?
Maybe, I don't know. It's news to me.
So yeah, maybe it's not one or the other that's more prevalent, perhaps. But I think fear is a big part of it.
Yeah, massively, yeah.
Fear of being wrong, fear of losing face, fear of looking silly, and the fear of the consequences of a bad decision. But coming back to your statement of is any decision better than no decision, I think people underestimate the consequences of decision avoidance. Because not making a decision is still a decision. You are deciding not to decide. Which might sound trite, but if you're putting it in that context, then the actions of not deciding fall on you.
Yes. But I think people can understand that more so than just... That's different to indecision. That's different to lack of transparency on decision making. I think if people can justify and see rationale about why something hasn't been decided on, then that's... But so Sabrina had asked me the other day, what wallpaper do you want in the bedroom?
Okay, big decision.
Yeah, decision, isn't it? And it feels like I should know the answer to that. It feels like, okay, I just don't know. I just don't know what to say. But show me some options. And then, it's easier to make decisions against. Sometimes it's easier to make a decision on what I don't want. I definitely don't like that. I don't like that. Show me more things like that, and I don't want that. Give me deciding between 3 or 4 items is easier than deciding between 128 items.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the choice can be paralysing.
The paradox of choice. And this was it was a TED talk we saw. You sent me a while ago. I can't remember the name of the speaker. But you walk, and your listeners can do this at home in their local supermarkets. You walk through the aisles of supermarket, and you look at how many different types of tea or coffee you can buy. And then you start to realise how difficult it can be to make choices and make decisions when there are literally 20, 30 different types of tea and coffee you can buy.
Yeah. I wrote about decision fatigue a few years ago. It's a big thing for product owners. There's more than anyone, because they have to make more decisions than most people on a team. But if you actually if you took time to list out all the decisions you make on a daily basis, you'd be surprised at how many decisions you're making every single day. And each of those decisions takes some mental energy. And the more you have to choose from, the more options you have to choose from, the more analysis you have to do, the more complex the decision, the more energy is going to be draining from you, and you only have a limited amount of time. So thinking about, here's an interesting one. I don't think a lot of teams pay attention to when you make decisions, not just in terms of Andreas's question of how quickly from when a decision needs to be made, but time of day, day of the week, and a lot of teams will leave decisions till the end of a meeting when people are at their most bored, most drained, and most want to get away from the thing. So making sure that you actually, as I say, setting yourself up for the chance of success, writing the rules of the game so you've at least got a chance of winning. I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, you're
so if you know something needs to be, if you need a really quick decision that you don't want to overthink it, maybe leave it until you're tired.
Then you will decide quicker.
But if you know it's sort of something that needs to be thought about, pick a time when you've got a lot of energy. And we've talked before, haven't we, about like the environment that you're in, which perhaps isn't as much a consideration right now. But if you're in a room that's got high ceilings, you're more likely to have creative, divergent thoughts. Whereas if you're in a room with low ceilings, less windows, and so on, then you want to get it to it. You come to a decision quicker.
So it's interesting, isn't it? So on this, I'm going back to Andreas's question because I'm intrigued by this minutes, hours. Should they be tracked? And I think this reminds me, Jeff, of being on TV quiz shows. And as you know, I've been on a few TV quiz shows. Some people might know me from my vast amounts of TV work. And I think there is a pattern. I know I'm generally not the most successful. And if anyone's seen me on TV, they know that I'm not sitting on £1 million, and I'm not in any way rich from appearing on TV game shows because I generally don't do very well. But what I struggle with is the pressure, and I wonder whether that minutes, hours, if you know that your decision making is being tracked. I'm always always at my worst in the quick fire round. Answer as many questions as you can in 30 seconds, whatever it might be. And when you know there's a time limit, when you know there's a pressure on you that you've got to make, it feels like you have to make a quick decision. That puts a lot of pressure on you, not to make the wrong call, but just not to. It's just to say pass. For me, it's like pass. I can't do that. Pass. Can't make that decision now.
Well, you probably wouldn't want to hear this. But pressure's relative, and pressure is manageable. So pressure is a sense of perspective, but also a sense of practice. You can practice those pressure moments. Now, I know people will say, well, you can never really manufacture the pressure of the last minute of a rugby match or in the quick fire round when the £1 million is on the line, whatever. You can't make, but you can practice being, and you can put yourself, you can create the conditions where you can be at your best. Visualization is a classic tool, but also just preparation and practice of giving yourself those timed moments and creating alternative pressure situations. So I'm just thinking on my feet now, but if you wanted to practice for quick fire rounds and just get used to being the pressure, then create some consequences that you don't want to happen if you fail. All right, I don't know, get the kids to pour a tin of beans over your head if you don't get more than 5 or something. So you know something's on the line.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more you become sort of desensitized to the pressure.
Yeah, I just think that when you make a decision to measure the speed of something, people are much more conscious of their performance or their.
But that could be a good thing.
It could be.
If they're procrastinating a lot, or they aren't if they don't realise
that would be good for me, for instance, to know how long it takes. You've taken. You can see the clock. You've taken this long to decide.
Yeah.
And the risk at which your tickets are going to be lost if you don't decide is decreasing or increasing. So that kind of visualizing the time you're taking. But I can see how that might be detrimental to some decision-making processes where you do need more time. It's a more critical decision.
Well, I'm tying some threads together here in my head. So, you said around instinct earlier on, and I talked about unconscious heuristics. And when it comes to decision making and time in the agile space, the phrase "the last responsible moment," you can't really have a conversation without using that phrase, referencing that phrase. But it's one that you don't know what it is until it's gone.
Yeah. There goes the last responsible moment.
Exactly. I love a deadline. I love the sound it makes as it whooshes past my ears. The last responsible moment is something that you can only really find out in retrospect, and you'll never hit it perfectly because maybe you take it just slightly too early or slightly too late or whatever. But what you can do is, if you're reflecting on it, is actually look back and think, okay, there's an example of where we took a decision too early. There's an example of where we took a decision too late. Okay, so let's start building up those heuristics a little bit more consciously, so we can start thinking as a team. This is another situation that's a bit like this one.
Yeah. And
this is when we actually found in retrospect the last responsible moment occurred. So how can we get ahead of that one this time? That, I think, is that resonates with me a lot. That sense of defining the last responsible moment through empirical data.
Yeah.
And that visibility, if you're a team that knows, on the whole, we tend to take decisions too slowly or we tend to make decisions too quickly, then what can we do to curb that, or balance it out a little? Do we need to bring a Paul on board? Do we need a visibility of the timer?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And to tie another thread into this from another podcast, there's this idea as well about not always, and I'm guilty of this, is remembering the bad decisions,
Yeah.
but also being able to reflect on this was a good decision at the right time, and why was it, and qualify that and add that to that kind of that list of reflective decisions. We made this decision and it was almost perfectly timed for this reason. And then we can start to categorise those types of decisions and look at, because I'm bad for that. And like I said to you, I remembered a time when a decision has hurt me, but there was an opportunity. I think it was probably around the pubcast, the squadcast thing. So for people that won't know this, but behind the scenes, we've been dabbling with a few different tools to record the pubcast, and one of them. We're basically trialling the difference between Squadcast and Zoom to record the sound quality, but also video quality. And I did the opposite to you. I waited till the very end of the trial period to get the full extent of the experiment before I decided to cancel. So and that in retrospect was a good decision, because it gave us longer to compare the quality of both. And had we not run a few more experiments, I might have decided to cancel too early, or decided not to cancel at all. So I think that was it. There's plenty of opportunities. It's very easy to get focused on the negative, the bad decisions, but there's probably a lot of good ones that you're making every day without even realising.
Yeah. When do you tend to make good decisions?
When do I make good decisions? What, time of the day, or after a certain amount of alcohol, or what?
No, I guess I was thinking more about circumstances. Are there certain types of decisions that you tend to handle better?
I think certainly decisions where I can see. I was going to say no-brainers, which is probably another word a term to it. Explore in itself isn't the term no-brainer, because even a no-brainer is still a brainer. You're still in some ways qualifying it, but it's where there doesn't seem to be not any but very minimal downsides. There was something I was thinking about the other day, that whether I should buy it. I haven't told Sabrina this, but I want to treat myself for my birthday for an Amazon Echo for the bedroom. It comes with a clock. So basically, like an expensive alarm clock.
Yeah,
that's what it is. But for me, that's a fairly easy decision, because there are way more benefits than I can see, costs and drawbacks.
But
what?
But you haven't raised this with your wife because you think she'll undermine that decision?
No, I haven't raised it with my wife in case she's got me one for my birthday.
Oh, I see.
But I'm waiting, Jeff. See, procrastinator Jeff would have gone and bought one.
I would.
And sent it back if you had another one for your birthday.
Yeah, because it's reversible.
Exactly, but for me, I was thinking, just wait, just hold off. You'll order it on Thursday. See what you get for your birthday. Probably won't get it, but then there's no rush. I can wait a couple more days.
Yeah. I guess I fear of missing out, I suppose, is a big...
Yeah, FOMO. That's a big player in decision making, isn't it?
Yeah. I do take a life's too short type approach to.
And also I think you like to be first. You like to be at the front of the of a decision, or you'd be the first one to have done that. Whereas I'm much more happy to be a follower, I think.
I would here we go. This is getting a bit deep. I would rather be accused of being reckless than boring. I mean, both of those are negative words, but
they're extremes.
Yeah, but I would take reckless over boring any day of the week. And I don't aspire to be either. But I think
So
that's why.
one of my friends was always the first one to buy, like, when the new PlayStation came out. So, and we'll call him Dave, right? You know Dave. You've met Dave. But let's pretend he's called Dave. He's called Dave, really. But Dave went out and bought, I think, the new PlayStation 1 when it came out. And it was like, I mean, it was ridiculously overpriced. It was like the equivalent now of like £600. It was ridiculous. But Dave wanted to be first. He wanted to be the first one that had it, that was using it, wanted to enjoy it. Whereas me, I'd say, well, I can wait for a bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's me being boring. There's an element there of being content, and content is a positive thing, but also not cautious is wrong, because it's not but me being frugal. I think when you can see this, my thinking was that this is probably going to reduce in cost over time. I'll play the long game here. I'll use Dave's PlayStation until I'm convinced that I'll buy one. Then I'll buy one that's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I bet you went out and bought a PlayStation straight away, didn't you, Jeff?
I've never owned a PlayStation.
Oh,
I was too busy playing football.
exactly. Too busy outdoors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Good one.
Talking of making decisions, it's your round.
Is it? Oh, do I hear the barmaid? Hang on a minute.
Time at the bar!
There we go. Better get him in.
Get them in.
Cheers, chap. Nice to see you again.
Yes, yeah, we'll have a lovely birthday.
Will do. I'll let you know if I get the alarm. Clock.
Yes.
But if not, I'll bite myself. All right. Nice one. Cheers, all.
Cheers, everybody.
Ta-da.